I do want to warn you that there are parts of this presentation that really are quite disturbing. So you don't need to feel awkward about leaving at any point if you feel you need to. Before I get into the dark stuff, I want to share with you a story that just completely changed the way I view myself and everyone around me. It's about this incredible 18th century ship captain named William Snelgrave. He was invited to meet a king on the west coast of Africa. After arriving on the island and being escorted to the king, Snelgrave noticed a little boy, no more than 5 years old. The boy's leg was tied to a stake. He asked, "Why is he tied up like that?" And the king calmly explained that the boy will be sacrificed to their god. Well, Snelgrave was outraged. Despite being outnumbered, he ordered his men to free the child at once. Weapons were drawn on both sides, and they were at a standoff. While those around him started to panic, Snelgrave had an idea. He offered to buy the boy, and the king agreed. But as they were walking back to their ship, a woman ran over to the boy and embraced him. It was his mother. In his memoirs, Snelgrave wrote, "I think there were never a more moving sight than on this occasion between the mother and her little son." He then chained them below deck and sold them into slavery. This story may seem bizarre to us. To see the wrongness of child sacrifice so clearly, yet be blind to the wrong of slavery. But slavery was normal in his time. Back then, British newspapers ran ads for enslaved people alongside ads for furniture. If you'd have stood on a street corner in London calling for the end of slavery, you'd have been laughed at and mocked. Most of the era's intellectuals insisted that slavery was natural, necessary, even good for the enslaved. And this moral blind spot is not an anomaly. It's a pattern. If we look throughout the history of human civilization, at every point behind us, there are examples of things that the majority of people accepted that we now look back on with horror. Child labor, the chemical castration of gay people, racial segregation, teachers hitting children with sticks, women being denied the right to vote, the institutionalization and severe neglect of people with disabilities. Now, how arrogant would it be to assume that today, despite our track record, for the first time in the history of human civilization, when we happen to be born, we're not missing something important. It is humbling to know that the people who found the idea of ending slavery to be laughable, well, they were born with pretty much the same brains as you and I. Which means we need to ask ourselves, what are we missing? What are we not taking seriously that future generations will be appalled by? Now, spotting the blind spots of the past is easy. I mean, these things seem so obvious to us today. But finding our own blind spots in this time, we shouldn't expect that to be so easy. So what can we look out for? Well, like Captain Snelgrave's blind spot, we might expect to find hypocritical attitudes, serious concern for harm in one context while ignoring harm in another. Let me show you something. This is Kurt Zouma, an ex-Premier League footballer who played for West Ham United. In early 2022, his brother posted a video with the two of them fooling around in his home. In the video, he noticed that Zouma's cat didn't seem to want to be around him, but he chased them, picked them up, and then kicked his cat across the kitchen. As you can imagine, widespread public outrage. He was fined by his club for £250,000. It was all over the media. The mayor of London called Zuma a disgrace, and he was eventually charged with a criminal offence. No doubt, it was a disgusting thing to do. Indefensible. Illegal. But let me tell you about something you probably didn't hear about on the news. When a piglet is too sick to be profitable, they can be killed by something referred to as thumping. They are taken by their hind legs and are repeatedly smashed onto the concrete floor until their skulls cave in. There's footage from a British farm of piglets being thumped against the bars of the cages that their own mothers were being held in. No alarm, no outrage, no headlines. I'm here today because I've come to believe that our treatment of animals is a profound moral blind spot of our time. And you know, a second common feature of moral blind spots is an industry that profits from misleading the public. Have you ever noticed the kinds of imagery we're used to seeing in the marketing of animal products? Everything seems so wholesome. This is a CO2 gas chamber. It's where pigs go to die. They'll start to feel a burning sensation in their eyes, throat, and lungs. You see them panic. They thrash around and try and escape through the bars. That's not surprising, because they're also experiencing something known as air hunger. It feels like drowning for up to 60 seconds before they eventually fall unconscious. This is how around 90% of pigs are killed in the UK. You probably didn't read about it on the label. The meat industry is hiding animal suffering behind glossy, feel-good packaging. And to understand why we're so susceptible to believing these lies, I need to tell you about my father. Now, to give you some context, me and my dad, we had very different childhoods. When I was a child, I would feed our video player milk and biscuits because I thought it had a face. When he was a child, his father took him into a slaughterhouse so he could learn how animals are killed and join the family trade. My dad has been a slaughterhouse worker for as long as I can remember. And I decided to show him footage of these gas chambers. I want to show you his reaction.
I know that you've got nothing to do with gas chambers, but I'm still interested in your opinion on that.
I'd have to see. I'd have to go there and see the thing happening myself. Yes, I can't say. I don't know.
But you don't what do you think of the video? I mean, do you have any moral issue with that?
Not really. I can't say for sure. 'Cause I didn't see enough to make me form an opinion on that. Really.
It seemed like some of the pictures showing escape behaviour, like trying to get out of the chamber, panicking, moving around a lot.
But they always would. It's not because of the CO2. It's because they're confined and they don't like it and they want to get out. That's understandable.
I guess when I see that, I think, oh, okay, that's clearly there's suffering there. It seems to me like the pigs are suffering.
I don't know if it's painful or not. Pigs are always squealing and doing it. It happens all the time. You can't really say why. There's a method of communication as well, isn't it? They're calling to each other. It's, it's not one for me, that really.
After spending his life working in the meat industry, following in the footsteps of his own father and his grandfather, to really see those gas chambers for what they are, to truly empathize with the animals struggling inside, well, that's understandably not an easy thing to do. But 6 months ago, I asked him what it was like to be thrown into that world as a child. And he said, when I was 9 years old and first saw an animal being slaughtered, I think it did hit me. But your brain somehow takes it on board. You get used to it, habituate to it. On some level, you detach yourself from it. I suppose it's a coping strategy. I'm here to tell you that I think we are all my father. That he is an extreme example of what we are all doing. That we, understandably, struggle to integrate a part of reality that is deeply unsettling. Now, my dad was reluctant to talk about what it's like in the slaughterhouse. So I went looking for someone who would. And that is how I met Tom, a British man who told me that he doesn't keep any sharp knives in his house because he doesn't want to be reminded of his past. He worked in slaughterhouses all over Europe for 18 years. He was pushed into the industry by his own father and didn't want the guilt of killing animals on his conscience. So he became what he calls a skin man, removing the skins of animals after they've been slaughtered. But across the industry, production line speeds are fast. And Tom told me that the culture was simple. You don't stop the line for anything. But maybe it's better if he explains it himself. What you're about to hear is quite distressing, so feel free to leave if you feel you need to. He agreed to talk to me on the condition that I would keep his identity hidden. And you'll understand why once you've heard what he has to say.
So my role was to skin the animals.
What are some of the issues that you were faced with when doing that?
Right then, the first one is whether they're dead or not. When you slaughter an animal humanely, the procedure is to be stunned so that it is unconscious, and then it is to be bled to death. If either one or both of them procedures is not done correctly, there's a very good chance the animal will not die correctly. This dairy cow was actually giving birth. The calf was halfway out of the birthing canal. It was hung up, but it wasn't bled properly, and it come round to me, it was still alive. She'd spent maybe 7 or 8 minutes wide awake, giving birth, just before being skinned alive. We had no allowance in time to stop for them animals. So we essentially learned how to skin them alive. At the time, you're desensitised to it. You are expected to do that. It doesn't take very long. It only takes a matter of 20 seconds to do that particular job. Maybe 25 if it's alive, you know? Just a little bit longer while it's kicking, while it's fucking cocking its leg, fucking kicking your ribs while you're working on it, you know? It takes 25 seconds to do that, but stay with you for the rest of your life.
Now, I've offered you a very small window into a global atrocity so terrible we can't even comprehend it. And it is not being granted even a fraction of the seriousness it deserves. You see, moral blind spots are insidious. We can be talking about the misery of billions of animals, each as real as your pet dog or cat, and our first instinct can be to roll our eyes at the activists for being annoying. But what will people think about this stuff in 200 years' time? If someone beats their dog, we're rightly outraged A footballer kicks his cat and it makes headlines all around the world. But if an industry systematically breeds billions into existence only to live lives full of pain, we barely even seem to notice. Look, we all have blind spots. I probably have hundreds more. This is a big one. I had this blind spot for a huge part of my life, and I want to show you the video that took it away. This will be uncomfortable. But should it really be so controversial to show people what is happening to animals in the meat industry? I think on some level, we already know that something is wrong here. But I also think that sometimes we need to push through our own detachment and take a look at the elephant in the room.
Your kids will love McDonald's Happy Meal.
One thing that unites us as humans is food. And one thing that's common amongst almost all our cultures is the use of animals in food. Supermarket packaging and marketing campaigns may lead us to believe these animals live happy lives. But is this actually the case? In the pig industry, piglets who are born too small or weak are considered to have no economic value. Many are just left to die. Others are killed by being smashed against the floor. Those who survive have their tails docked, teeth clipped, and testicles ripped out with no pain relief. During and after they give birth, mother pigs are often confined in crates so small they can't even turn around. Since only female chickens lay eggs, male chicks in the egg industry are considered useless and are killed on their first day of life. Most often, they are macerated alive. Chickens in the meat industry are selectively bred to grow extremely big, extremely fast. As a result, they often experience problems walking, standing, and even breathing. Cows in the dairy industry are relentlessly milked, which can cause them to collapse from exhaustion. Out of all the animals we use for food, fish are the animals we kill in the largest numbers. Yet, they're the ones we protect the least from cruelty and suffering. Investigations have often found fish still conscious long after being put on ice. Whether they're raised for meat, dairy, or eggs, all animals are eventually sent to a slaughterhouse. Many are killed by being hung upside down and having their throats slit. For pigs, a common slaughter method is the carbon dioxide gas chamber, which burns their eyes, nostrils, sinuses, throats, and lungs while suffocating them.
How'd you feel after watching that? Upset? Angry? Overwhelmed? It is a lot to be confronted with. And obviously, nobody wants this to be happening. This isn't your fault. It's not the fault of the slaughterhouse workers. But it is happening. It's happening as I speak these words. We have been conditioned by our social norms, by our disconnect and detachment, to not recognize this for what it is. But the number of animals suffering in farms right now is more than the total number of humans who have ever lived. There is now a growing movement of people who have each realized that we are living in a time that is accepting of extreme violence and abuse. But maybe one day, people will look back at this era and ask, how was this possible? How could so many people stay silent in the face of such an atrocity? And maybe someone will respond, but this stuff was hidden. They didn't know. Well, now you know. Thank you. Hey, thanks for watching this video. You might be wondering what I want people to do after hearing this. And my recommendation is to simply learn more about the subject of animal ethics. You can do that by watching more of my YouTube videos, or quizzing ChatGPT about animal suffering, or by reading a book like this, Animal Liberation by Peter Singer. The first chapter is especially important. It delves into things that I didn't have time to go into. The philosophy of terms like speciesism and equal consideration of interests. The sad reality is that the situation for animals right now is really terrible, but by having more people thinking about this, we can change that. The animal movement is a wonderful growing community of people who take this seriously, and this is your invitation to join us.